VikesNow, Dustin Baker, one day before the NFL draft. I'm here with Luke Braun. How are you today, good sir?
Doing great, man. Good to be on.
Tell us a little bit about yourself in the off chance folks haven't read your work. Where can they find you? What are you all about?
Yeah, you can find me on the Locked On Vikings podcast. You can find that wherever you find your favorite podcasts. You can find me on the Locked On NFL podcast as well every Tuesday. And I do articles. Both of those are daily shows, Monday through Friday, half-hour shows. And then I also write articles twice a week in season at zonecoverage.com.
Oh, wonderful. All right. So I brought you on to pick your brain. I've had a litany of guests on during this draft cycle, and some of the questions will be familiar to the viewers, but I think it's cool to gain some consensus. So the first one I have for you is this: is running it back for the Vikings with familiar roster pieces a smart or dumb thing?
Kind of depends on the piece, doesn't it? I mean, is keeping Daniil Hunter running it back? Like, is that a commitment to mediocrity or whatever people say? Probably not, right? We probably don't think that keeping Justin Jefferson in-house is doing that.
Yeah.
And then there are some things like, Brian O'Neill, he was extended, and Dalvin Cook, he was like just extended. Those contracts kind of aren't going in. Well, you could have cut Dalvin Cook, but it would not save you very much money this year. And so I don't think, you want them to do that necessarily. I think when we say running it back, we really mean running it back with the quarterback. And personally, I think, I think Kirk Cousins is, I don't love what they've done this offseason, and it kind of is only because of Kirk Cousins. He's the quarterback. It's the most important thing. So it is sort of driving my opinion. But that said, that decision's been made, and if they're going to make that decision, they need to make decisions around him and around, building that. And if they want to do this competitive rebuild thing and actually be competitive, then okay, go ahead and do that. Get Zadarius Smith. Keep as many guys in-house as you can. If you're going to lose Michael Pierce because he won't take a pay cut, bring in Harrison Phillips. At least get something back for that, right? So, I don't know. They are attempting to win games, and I think a lot of Minnesota sports fans are sick of being told that maybe we'll win this year.
Yeah.
But I say, toughen up. It's sports.
On the Cousins nugget that you have, is it that 35 million is too rich for your blood?
So my cousin's take is that it's not his contract at all.
Oh, okay.
Oh, hang on, sorry.
No, we're all good.
Something on my computer just freaked out. Okay, sorry. I'll take that again. So my take on Cousins is that it's not the contract at all. His contract is totally fine, and it's mostly because when you start looking into the ways that the Vikings and other teams manipulate the cap, it is so malleable. It's not infinite. It's not that the cap is a myth. Eventually, you reach a tipping point where you have taken on so much debt that it's debilitating. But correct me if I'm wrong, the Vikings have taken on less debt. They've borrowed less from future years this year than they did last year. They're working that debt off. And they're doing that with Kirk Cousins. I think it's fine. And if you replaced Cousins' contract with a regular veteran contract, you'd save $10 million? That's not going to be the difference between the Vikings winning a Super Bowl or not. My issue with Cousins is his actual level of play.
Okay.
It's that there are schematic decisions that he makes, and it's an approach to the game, and he's very open about this, and he would defend it. But he's very much a live to fight another day kind of quarterback, where if pressure is coming, if the play isn't going right, he's really, 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 really quick trigger to take the safe throw or to throw it away or to he'll break the pocket at really, really inopportune times. And then sometimes it'll be like, why didn't you break that pocket? And I think his decision-making matrix in those situations is not very good on the fly. And he knows that, and he doesn't want to go there. So he'll just dump the ball. And it's live to fight another day, right? And he talks about how he learned that once. He threw a bad interception at Michigan State in college, and he's like, and now I'm the kind of guy that wants to live to fight another day. The thing is, he never picks a day to fight on. And so it's always just living to fight on a different day. And it's never, okay, this is the time that I'm going to like go do it. And that approach to the game, I think that lost us the Rams game in 2021. I think that lost us, I don't have them off the top of my head, but I definitely have 2021. I think Cowboys game maybe was another one. The Cooper Rush game had all sorts of problems on defense too, but I think Kirk Cousins and that sort of panicky get rid of the ball hot potato thing got him in a lot of trouble. And I think if you got a quarterback that maybe doesn't have the arm strength or doesn't have the accuracy, but had a more of a gamer's mentality, I think you would be able to pull out a few more of those close wins, and that really, really matters in January.
Okay. On this roster, one day before the draft, does the current top heaviness cause you concern at all, or do you think that these depth guys will actually turn out to be pretty decent?
It probably varies position by position. There are some positions I feel pretty good about the depth, especially like if they draft Kyle Hamilton, which looks like a pretty likely option right now that he would fall to 12 and they would just take him. I would feel really good about that safety depth. That means Cameron Bynum comes in if someone gets injured, and I feel pretty okay about that. If, Christian Darrisaw goes down and Oli Udoh comes in, that's a guy who started some games. I can make my peace with it. If Patrick Peterson goes down, bring out your dead. It's over. It's if Danielle Hunter goes down, we're suddenly starting to DJ Wanham again, and the entire defense will fall apart because he can't set the edge, and so they'll just run down our throats. Also a thing that happened in that Rams game.
Yeah.
So, like, yeah, it depends position by position, but I do think the Vikings have pretty astounding depth concerns that they should probably try to address in the middle rounds of this draft. But it sucks when your rookie kind of has to step right in and fill a role right away, because, like, what if they aren't ready to play,
Yeah, they're not all Cameron Bynum. They can't be in that sample size against the Ravens.
Yeah, sometimes it's Wyatt Davis, and he just doesn't have it yet. And you have to, and you have to stomach putting Dakota Dozier above him on the depth chart and go, okay, this didn't work out.
All right, so the draft tomorrow night, whether it's at the 12th pick or a trade back to 16 or 20, predict the Vikings' first pick of the night, please.
Sounds like Stingley and Sauce won't be there. I got to talk this out because predict it is hard. I've got a whole bunch of, I know what I would think in all these scenarios, but I have no idea which one will happen. I've never seen Kwesi draft. Nobody has. So sitting at 12, picking Hamilton, I think is a pretty likely scenario. Maybe I'll go with that. Or if they trade back, I could see them trading back into like pick 20-ish. And going with, I kind of feel like they aren't going to take McDuffie. I don't think McDuffie's brightest future would be with the Vikings. I think he fits better with another team. You can listen to that thought on Locked On Vikings. I went into it in a ton of depth. Ka'ir Elam maybe would be the guy that goes if they trade into the back of the first round, or Andrew Booth, one of those two guys. But I think it's really, really likely to be a secondary guy.
Why do you think it's relatively elementary that Hamilton will be there? You believe in the smoke that has him tumbling?
I do.
Okay.
Yeah. And I think the guys get overthought a lot. There are guys that are like very clearly good, and then you have a month since the last time we got any new information about Kyle Hamilton. This happened to Michael Thomas a little bit. He was like very clearly good, and then he just got overthought over time, and he just sort of fell. That's always the one that like comes to my mind. And the funniest one was in 2017, and the league didn't follow this. It was Joey Bosa, and he went third. The league didn't fall for it. But if you look at like day before the draft mocks in 2017, Joey Bosa wasn't a first rounder. I don't know how that happened, but suddenly people just decided he wasn't good. And it was like he was a top 5 pick like after the combine and his pro day and stuff. So it was literally just over time, people just had time to overthink it. And I do think that happens to teams sometimes, and people are just overthinking Kyle Hamilton's 40 time when it's very clear that on tape he has a lot of range. And what you usually think speed is for on a safety, he is good at that skill. And I think he just didn't do a good job coming out of the sprinters blocks, which he won't have to do on the field.
I asked Jordan Reed on my other show with McKinney last night, like, what causes that? So, Monday morning hit, and all of a sudden Trayvon Walker was the presumed first pick for sports books. And then, this Hamilton falling thing. I asked him, almost like a novice, like, what causes this shit? Like, is it agents? And he said it's mock drafts. It's guys like Peter King. When they publish a mock draft, he says that they're plugged in and that it drives.
Oh my God.
Yeah. I thought it was, some big, like a conspiracy or some agent that orchestrated all this like a puppet master. But he's like,
yeah, it's like you have your evaluation, right? Your scout watched Kyle Hamilton back in November, and you're going, most of your information is there. And it's like you don't get anything new for so long. All you have is time to mull over it. And then suddenly you come away, thinking 2 + 2 is 5.
Yeah. Which, transitioning away from the first round for just a minute, which later round prospects, whichever round you choose, would fit perfectly with these Vikings?
The perfect fit with these Vikings. There are a couple of interior O-line guys that could either compete with Garrett Bradbury or play right guard. I think both of these guys are versatile there. I like Spencer Burford out of UTSA. He's a little bit on the smaller side, but I think a lot of what is making him fall is a strength of competition. He went to a smaller school. Usually, when you go to a smaller school, you kind of go, okay, why didn't he end up at the bigger schools? Why didn't they recruit him? What was going on? Well, he was recruited by those bigger schools. He just wanted to stay close to home, and there's a little bit of family legacy there. So he chose UTSA for like super personal reasons. And to me, that's always a big, like, okay, discard the small school thing then. And he dominated there. But my favorite is actually Josh Ezeudu out of UNC. He has the size and anchor and the sand in his pants that we've been begging for at the center position, but without giving up that mobility. He moves way better than he should for his size. He's just really raw. So he's like a 4th or 5th round guy. And he's going to take some time to develop. But if you're looking for your heir apparent as Bradbury plays out the last year of his deal here, I really like Ezeudu. I think he fits really perfectly, and I think he kind of has what we haven't had, if that makes sense.
Yeah, the timing would be great, because if we are correct that I guess the masses are correct, and Bradbury can't be unlocked by a new regime, then in theory, that dude should be ready. All right. Go ahead.
Yeah, and they get a year to kind of test out that thesis because Kevin O'Connell's been saying that, like, hey, we're going to do a scheme thing, and I think that's going to help him. You got a year to test that. And then if not, you have a guy that's now been cooking for a year that can hopefully step right in.
Yeah, I like that. All right. The final 2 questions are kind of similar, so bear with me. You spoke about 5 minutes ago about the lack of resume or track record for Kwesi, so all of this shit's so unpredictable. I want to know if there is a Kwesi shocker on Thursday night, what will it be? What will it be?
Trading out of the first.
Altogether.
That would be a lot, right? You probably get a first rounder next year and then some. And I can't say I'd actually hate it too much. I don't love this class. I have 8 people in this whole class that I would actually like to take at 12. Everybody else I think would be a reach. 8 people.
Really?
And like 3 of them are Evan Neal and Ikem Ekwonu and Malik Willis, who they aren't going to take, but like I would, just because the value is so crazy bad if they fall.
Yeah.
So, like, there's not a lot of guys that I feel comfortable picking at 12. I would much rather trade back, accumulate more assets, and the next kind of tier of guys isn't that far off. But, look, Mr. Wall Street, let's diversify my portfolio, that's trading down. Yeah. So, yeah, so I could definitely see trading down multiple times and then trading all the way out of the first maybe. And, getting rid of that expensive 5th-year option year, which isn't exactly the advantage it used to be with the cap environment. And, yeah, trading out of the first entirely and just getting, like, a ton and being, like, super stocked next year to go up and maybe get a quarterback.
I'm trying to figure out how the world would react to that, if they would be like, God damn it.
Oh, the olds would get so mad because they'd be like, oh, my God, I stayed up for nothing. It's like the older people are, the madder they are about trade downs. I've noticed that the correlation is perfect because they were not planning on staying up. So they're like, man, I'm tired. Can you pick, please?
Listen to this. Last year, my wife and I, as kind of our first post-COVID at the time, it felt like trip. We drove to Cleveland because the draft, as you know, is free, and if you get in on the app in time, you can get tickets. So we went to the amphitheater, whatever you want to call it, and the cell reception was horrible. And so I didn't know about the trade until like the board showed the Vikings vanish, like actually there. And it wasn't until we got back to the hotel room that I got to get on Twitter, and I saw all the feedback of people just pissed that they traded out of the pick. But then there was glee that they got Darisaw, so I got to see both reactions, whereas I normally would have seen it in real time and laugh. But yeah, it was just venom.
Yeah,
they were like,
it's total venom.
Yeah, it was like they thought it was like a concession, like we didn't want a first pick. That was the reaction, as if we were like, we don't need one. All right, so my last question for you, one day before the draft, and like I said, this is similar to the last one. Give us a bold prediction for the Vikings in this draft.
Bold prediction for the Vikings in this draft. Okay. I don't know. I have hot takes about guys, and I have a lot of hot takes like on just the national perspective of the draft. Like, I don't think Aiden Hutchinson's a top 20 player.
Wow.
But that doesn't affect the Vikings very much. So I got to think about a bold prediction for the Vikings.
Jordan Reed's last night was that they select Jamison Williams at 12.
I could see it.
Yeah.
That's one. It's one. His injury worries me a little bit because he already has a durability concern. So I wouldn't if I were Kwesi, but I could see him doing it for sure.
Yeah.
I'm trying to get weird about it. How about this? For a refreshing twist on all the people that really hated how Rick Spielman did this all the time. They will pick twice in the 4th round, but they will not pick in the 7th.
Oh, okay. So they find a way to get back in the 4th at 0.
Yes.
And the maximize.
And they will not. No 7th rounders.
Yeah, that'll be
all right.
Yeah, that'll be refreshing.
And everybody can finally nut.
All right. Any closing arguments for the group, Luke?
Closing arguments. No, I think everybody just sit back and enjoy the draft. This is one of the most fun weekends of the year. Don't talk yourself into how this is actually going to all go horribly. I got a whole bunch of mailbag questions. Like, what's the bad thing that can happen? It's the draft. It's all fun.
Yeah, I hear you. All right, good, sir. We appreciate you joining. We'll hope you'll come back maybe sometime around training camp. Think that would work?
Absolutely.
All right, that's all we got. And Skol, baby.